Dr. Keith Rowley has no moral authority. Man who presided over record murders and 52% black poverty increase attacks, crime-fighting measure that would have helped his own P&M constituencies, an editorial by Professor Wall Street. Former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's Facebook post celebrating the defeat of the Zones of Special Operations, Zoso, bill represents stunning moral bankruptcy from the man who presided over the first, second, and third highest murder rates in Trinidad and Tobago's history. His characterization of the Zoso bill as ill-conceived and his attack on Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar as incompetent, rude, and offensive would be laughable if the consequences weren't so tragic for the predominantly black disadvantaged communities, mainly P&M constituencies, that the Zoso legislation would have protected. Rowley governed for 10 years, 2015 to 2025, during which he presided over 625 murders in 2024, highest in history, oversaw over 5,000 citizens murdered, increased black poverty from 17.3% to 26.3%, a catastrophic 52% increase, and left office with Trinidad ranked among the top 10 most murderous countries globally. Now this same failed leader celebrates blocking legislation specifically designed to reduce violence in the very communities his governance devastated. Singing Sandra's prophetic 1999 calypso, Voices from the Ghetto captured exactly this betrayal. Leaders who abandon the ghetto while claiming to represent it. Leaders we voting for, thinking they go help the poor, but they more concerned with how much money they could earn. Leaders we fighting for, who say they go open doors, but when they reach where they going, they forget where they coming from. The question must be asked, what have the opposition P&M and the so-called independent senators appointed by P&M functionary President Christine Kangaloo gained by blocking a measure that would have saved black lives in P&M strongholds? Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar was absolutely correct, calling out these independent senators as brown-nosers and bootlickers who consistently vote with the P&M rather than in the public interest. Here are 10 reasons why the worst PM in history of Trinidad and Tobago should be silent on Zoso and has lost all moral authority on crime. 1. Presided over first, second, and third highest murder rates in history. The most damning fact destroying Rowley's moral authority. He presided over the 3 highest murder rates in Trinidad and Tobago's entire history. Rowley's murder record, 2024, 625 murders, first highest in history. 2023, second highest murder rate. 2022, third highest murder rate. Total, over 5,000 citizens murdered during his decade, 2015 to 2025. Trinidad ranked among top 10 most murderous countries globally. Sandra's lyrics captured the reality Rowley's policies created. Outside the siren keep howling, inside your belly, real growling, police raid very often. Simpsons measuring a coffin, one night in bed you sleeping, next night is a wake that you keeping. This catastrophic record gives Rowley zero credibility attacking any crime-fighting measure. He governed for 10 years, tried nothing that worked, and left office with murder rates at historic highs. The victims were disproportionately young black men in disadvantaged communities, the exact communities Zoso was designed to protect. 2. Increased black poverty 52%, from 17.3% to 26.3%. Beyond murders, Rowley presided over a catastrophic 52% increase in black poverty, from 17.3% living below poverty line to 26.3%. This represents systematic economic devastation of the very community Rowley claimed to represent. The poverty catastrophe. Black poverty increased from 17.3% in 2015 to 26.3% in 2025. 52% increase in just 10 years. Thousands of black families pushed into poverty. Economic opportunities for black youth collapsed. Sandra's lyrics prophetically describe condition Rowley made worse. Cupboard always bare and scanty, 10 people in a one-bedroom shanty, forced to sell on the pavement, no vacancies, no employment. Social amenities, Lord heaven knows. Opportunities, well, them always closed. Can't get work once it white collar. So if you can't stretch your dollar, then it's later for you, crapo smoke your pipe. You're sure to dead from gripe. Rowley's governance pushed thousands deeper into the poverty Sandra described. His attack on Zoso, which would have brought resources and security to these impoverished communities, represents contempt for the people his policies devastated. 3. Zoso would have helped predominantly black PNM constituencies. The tragic irony, Zoso legislation was specifically designed to address violence in predominantly black disadvantaged communities, many of which are PNM strongholds like Laventil, Beetham, Sealot, and Eastern Port of Spain. Communities Zoso would have protected Laventil, PNM constituency, Beetham, PNM constituency, Sealot, PNM constituency, Eastern Port of Spain, PNM areas, Morvan, PNM constituency. These are the communities Sandra sang about. Can't tell firecracker from gunshot. Blood does flow when things get hot. Afraid to look out my window to hear voices from the ghetto. These communities suffered most under Rowley's catastrophic crime failure. They would have benefited most from Zoso's clear, hold, and build strategy. Yet Rowley celebrated blocking legislation that would have saved black lives in his own constituencies, prioritizing political opposition to UNC over protection of black communities the PNM claims to represent. 4. Jamaica's Zoso success proves the model works. Rowley's characterization of Zoso as ill-conceived ignores documented success in Jamaica, where Zosos have operated since 2017 with dramatic results. Jamaica's Zoso results: 73% overall crime reduction in Zoso-designated areas, 40% murder decline in 7 key communities, 75% shooting reduction in violence-torn St. James, historic low homicide rates in 4 districts. Officials spoke of transformed communities. This proven model was exactly what Trinidad's violence-plagued communities needed. Communities where, as Sandra sang, young Turks, their turf protecting, almost every young girl expecting, so tomorrow beg, steal or borrow, there will be another voice from the ghetto. Rowley's dismissal of documented success reveals either stunning ignorance or deliberate mischaracterization to justify blocking UNC initiative that would have helped communities he abandoned. 5. Sandra's prophecy, leaders who forget where they coming from. Sandra's most devastating lyrics prophesied exactly the betrayal Rowley represents. With dented pride they soldier on, revolutions base, politicians pawn, and often their tragic story brings a journalist glory. No wonder they view the world with scorn. Some call them rebels without a cause, these social victims of unjust laws, but yet they christen their heroes, renegades, desperados, forever knocking on heaven's doors. Rowley came from humble Tobago origins, but governed in ways that devastated black communities, increased black poverty 52%, and presided over record murders of black youth. Now he supports legislation designed to help these same communities because opposing UNC matters more than saving black lives. This is exactly the leadership betrayal Sandra condemned. Leaders who forget where they're coming from and prioritize political power over the people they claim to represent, leaving communities crying, 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 "Hey Lord, Lord, crying, crying, voices from the ghetto, help us, Father, O Lord." 6. Independent senators are PNM appointees. Prime Minister Persad Bissessa was absolutely correct identifying the so-called independent senators as effectively PNM operatives. Why independent senators aren't independent? Appointed by President Christine Kangaloo, PNM functionary, who promised to preach the gospel of the PNM in your homes. 8 of 9 independent senators voted with PNM against Zoso. Consistent pattern of voting with PNM on key legislation. 1 abstained rather than support government. When 8 of 9 independent senators consistently vote with the opposition PNM, they're not independent. They're PNM senators without admitting it. PM's characterization of them as brown nosers and bootlickers may be blunt, but it's factually accurate based on voting patterns. 7. The reality of life under Rowley's failure. Sandra's lyrics documented the reality Rowley's policies created and Zoso would have addressed. Mothers does just hold their head and bawl, and them woman stronger than a wall. A big pusher eyeing she-daughter, son in jail for manslaughter. Too bad for he ain't named Brad Boyce. No bail, that's the black man's choice. Like Shadow say poverty is hell. She little girl child belly start to swell. Life does rape dignity and pride, till there's only bitterness left inside, and every day is a hustle. Arguments are settled with muscle, till you 6 feet deep by 3 feet wide. This was life in disadvantaged communities under Rowley's decade of failure. Zoso would have combined security with social programs to address these conditions. Rowley's celebration of blocking it represents callous disregard for communities living this reality. 8. What did PNM gain by blocking Zoso? The critical question: what did the PNM and their independent senator allies gain by blocking legislation that would have reduced violence in predominantly black communities? The answer: political opposition to UNC took priority over black lives in PNM constituencies. The PNM calculated that blocking any UNC crime-fighting success served their electoral interests better than allowing measures that would save lives in their own strongholds. As Sandra sang about these communities, children through life keep on drifting. Is something they smoking or sniffing? Maybe they trying to forget this life of misery and regret. No one to come to their rescue except Cape Purton and Buju. Rather than rescue these communities through Zoso, Rowley and the PNM chose political calculation over black lives. Moral bankruptcy Sandra's lyrics condemned. 9. Rowley's personal attacks reveal desperation. Rowley's characterization of PM Persad Bissessa as incompetent, rude, and offensive, absent Facebook Prime Minister, represents desperation from failed leader whose own record is indefensible. PM's actual 8-month record: 47% crime reduction, 33% detection improvement. Trinidad dropped from top 10 most murderous countries. Energy sector revival, Couva Hospital opened, PSA back pay delivered. Rowley governed 10 years producing catastrophic failure captured in Sandra's lyrics. PM Persad Bissessa governed 9 months producing measurable success that would have been enhanced by Zoso. His personal attacks reveal inability to defend his record, so he resorts to name-calling. 10. Sandra's final message: We are not a forgotten people.
Sandra's calypso ends with powerful plea that Zoso would have answered,
Crying, 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 Lord, hear them pleading, crying, I, voices from the ghetto. Stretch forth a hand to us, Lord, we are not a forgotten people. Hear our cry.
Zoso represented exactly this, stretching forth a hand to communities Rowley forgot, communities crying for help, communities his policies devastated with record murders and 52% black poverty increase.
By blocking Zoso, Rowley and the PNM confirmed these communities are forgotten people to them. Political pawns useful for votes but abandoned when crime-fighting measures might give UNC credit for addressing crisis PNM created and failed to solve.
In conclusion, moral bankruptcy on display. Dr. Keith Rowley's celebration of Zoso's defeat represents stunning moral bankruptcy from Trinidad and Tobago's worst prime minister, celebrating the blocking of legislation that would have helped the very communities his governance devastated. Singing Sandra's 1999 Calypso, Voices from the Ghetto, prophesied exactly this betrayal 26 years ago. Every verse describes conditions Rowley made worse during his decade. Record murders leaving mothers holding their heads and bawling. 52% black poverty increase, forcing families into one-bedroom shanties with bare cupboards. Communities where children drift through life with no rescue coming, where life does rape dignity and pride. Sandra sang about leaders who forget where they came from once they achieve power. Rowley embodies this perfectly, coming from humble Tobago origins, but governing in ways that devastated black communities, then celebrating blocking legislation designed to help them because opposing UNC matters more than saving black lives. He has zero moral authority commenting on crime fighting given his catastrophic record. His celebration of Zoso's defeat while black communities continue crying, the voices from the ghetto Sandra documented, represents contempt for the very people he claims the PNM represents. Prime Minister Persad Bissessa was absolutely correct about the independent senators. 8 of 9 voted with PNM, proving they're PNM operatives appointed by PNM President Kangaloo. Her brown-nosers and bootlickers characterization may be blunt, but voting patterns prove it accurate. The question Sandra asked in 1999 remains unanswered. Where will it all end? Only time could tell. But we know this. It won't end with leaders like Rowley, who prioritize partisan opposition over citizen safety, who block proven crime-fighting measures because acknowledging UNC success would expose their own failures, and who abandon black communities to continued violence rather than support legislation designed to protect them. Trinidad and Tobago deserves better than political leaders who embody the betrayal Sandra condemned, who campaign in the ghetto, promising help but forget where they're coming from, once in power, leaving communities still crying, I was born and bred in the ghetto, crying, I know what I talking about, you know, crying, I from the ghetto. Rowley should be silent on crime given his catastrophic record. Instead, he celebrates blocking measures that would have saved black lives in PNM constituencies. This moral bankruptcy deserves condemnation, not platform. Sandra's Calypso was prophetically right, and Rowley's Zoso celebration proves it.